Hey all, I am VictorÄ. I help provide insight to empower, and today I wanted to discuss money wounds. Money wounds. Now, money wounds are essentially how we relate to money, what comes to mind, how we associate ourselves to money. Now, today I had lunch with my father and my sister was expressing frustration with how she's making more money than she used to, but it seems like, more money, more problems, more money, more bills. And her frustration is what really stood out to me. It's what really jogged my memory about how I used to feel about money. Now, in the past, I had a very strained relationship with money. There were a lot of underlying beliefs, or what we call wounds, about money, about how it's generated, who it goes to. It was a very powerless and victimized mindset, right? There were always opinions and beliefs about these types of people are the ones who get to have money. They get to have money. While the people who needed it seemed to have the least of it. And increasingly, fewer and fewer people would have a larger share of something that seemed very finite. And anybody, we can split hairs about how much money there is, how it's being used, how it's being allocated, and by whom. But at the end of the day, it's on the individual to learn how to allocate their own resources, their own money. Now, me personally, I used to spend money on really dumb shit. I used to not invest in myself. Nowadays, I invest a lot of money into things that I love, into, art courses, into masculine, feminine energy courses, into books on trauma and relationships and healing modalities. I invest I'm investing a lot of money now into carving out a place for myself in this world where before, because of my cynical and pessimistic attitudes, I would essentially be waiting to die. I would essentially be waiting for someone or something to come along and, I don't do the work for me to make it worth being here. And it was only when I started to re-relate, change how I relate to everything that I was complaining about, that my nervous system started to change, started to get used to being here, I started to see myself here. I started to see a future for myself here. Whereas before that was very much not the case. I got the scars to prove it. Now, one of the biggest takeaways that I learned in changing my relationship to money came in two ways. One was reframing it. Instead of money, which, there's so much fear in, I would see it as something very finite, right? Something that's tied to corruption, tied to politics and the super wealthy. Only corrupt people could have it. Only the privileged few that this world favors could have it. And so I started building resentment and anger around the idea of money. But it's also something It's a byproduct, I learned, of how secure and stable I am within myself. And I mean literally within myself, mentally, emotionally, but also, again, my nervous system. I had a coach who would say, we can have what we can hold. And he was talking about relationships, specifically romantic relationships. I can't have the girl of my dreams if anytime I get close to her, I start to get anxious and fearful and insecure. I imagine walking into a cave filled with gold, and I'm carrying already all this baggage, all these issues, all these insecurities, all these anxieties, these wounds. I'm carrying wounds from past relationships. And it's only when I let all this shit go that I can start to collect things that are actually good for me, that I can use to invest in myself. I can use time to invest in myself. I can use time management skills to invest in myself. I can use voice therapy and, regular mental emotional therapy. I can invest in people who know more about me when it comes to things like energy, when it comes to things like money. I can invest time, energy, money into these classes. And in so doing, I'm investing in myself, in my well-being. I can have what I can hold. And if I'm too shaky, unstable, insecure, if I would rather hold on to that, onto fear about who gets money, about who has money, about where our government and where like the super rich or where like the elite are taking us, if I'm hanging on to the fear around that, well, then I can't, that's what I'm spending my energy on. And it's there. I mean, I believe it's there. I think it exists. I think it's really fucked up. But if I'm going to make heaven on earth for myself and for the people around me, if I'm going to, be part of their heaven on earth, and I want them to be part of my heaven on earth, then I can't spend money, I can't spend energy, I can't spend attention on things that make me angry and fearful and insecure. If I don't like who's rich in this world, well then why would I become rich? And a way to reframe that for me was if I don't like who's rich, if I don't like the capitalists that are running things now, it's not a matter of fighting them or, in a way, it's not a matter of like struggling within myself about them. What I have to do is become a capitalist that I want to be. A conscious capitalist. Like someone who can accrue resources and use them in the ways that I want to see. That if I saw someone who's really using their money to go out of their way to help people, to make this a better world, well, then I want to be like that person. Rather than fixate on the people who don't do the things that I like. It's a different world that we're heading towards, but we can't get there if we're fighting ourselves along the way. And that frustration is a killer, right? When I was in my old beliefs and my old ways around money, it held me back. It weighed me down. to get frustrated. It was valid, but it weighed me down to get frustrated about, well, if I'm going to be making more money and I'm going to get more expenses, well, then what's the point? Why not just stay where I am? And it was such toxic thinking. Because like with my sister, she was making more money, but then she started getting more bills. And that's one thing. If we stay there, then we stay stuck. But then I asked her, okay, well, like, don't you then have, like, she also mentioned that her kid started vocational or occupational therapy. And if she were in her old income, she would not have been able to afford that. We can look at it as a problem, as an issue, or we can look at it with gratitude. We had an expense that before we could not pay, but because we're at a new level, the money's there. And that really brings me to the point of this. How to view money is that it's already got somewhere to go. It's already got somewhere to go. I got to check for a down payment on a condo that I'm buying. And there's the old part of me that still lives within me, less and less each day, but it's still there. Progress, not perfection, right? So I get the check, and that old me is like, okay, what if we use like the most of it for the down payment, and then some of it goes other places. And it's not so much a huge fight or a huge struggle these days, but it's still there. It's still a voice that echoes in my mind about irresponsibility and old beliefs, because it's more long-term thinking to be like, okay, this whole check is going to go into an investment so that over time.
Voilà ce que j'ai trouvé sur le web.
I think I was pressing on my Apple Watch. So that over time I spend less on something that may become an investment property. I'm going to be living there, but if I choose to continue to invest in myself, then I'm going to be doing a lot better financially down the road. And I may want to move into a nicer place if I want to start a family, if I want to, have a backyard, and then I can shift and be a little more dynamic and, rent that property or sell it. Which is like another point about money. It's like I can sell it for the same, if not more. But either way, the money's spent. The money already had somewhere to go. An example of this is investment. So many people got on board the Robinhood train, cryptocurrency and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, one of the first things that I told myself when I started investing was, if I invest $20, let's say, and the market fluctuates and that becomes, worth, the shares I bought become worth 40, a lot of people would get stuck there and be like, okay, 20 turned into 40. And now they get nervous about like, okay, this cannot go down because then I lose $40. And it's like, no, not really. You invested 20. So like the most you could ever lose is $20 because that's all there was. But either way, that money's spent. And there's more coming, right? You work at a job. You have skills. You have experience. Even if people say that you don't, you do. You have knowledge, skills, and experience in something. And you can leverage that to either continue working and get better, or get another job in a different field, or get a job in the same field. but the result is the same, is that you have income coming. You have income, and you have now, and there's more coming. And that's one of the biggest things to realize, to embody, is that you have what you need now to get to where you're going. And once you get there, there's going to be more responsibility and income. There's more coming. There's more coming. There's a lot more coming. And there's also more responsibility coming, more expenses coming. So it, either neutralizes or levels out, or over time, you can start either lowering your expenses and or raising your income. I think that's something I for sure didn't get. And I see a lot of people that don't really see things that way. But the other thing is that it's already got somewhere to go. Like if I get hung up on, I get this large sum of money, or I get like my paycheck, and I hate, I resent, I dislike that it's got all these places to go and I don't get anything for myself. Well, then one, that's kind of like low key, that's kind of about hoarding, because my mom has been a hoarder for years. And we'd spend hours, like 3 to 5 hours at a thrift shop, and she would just try on everything. And I just hated being there. And then I hated coming to the house and there's stuff everywhere. And it's like, man, this is the cost of insecurity. This is the cost of what it takes for her to feel very temporary, very fleeting security. And it's very external based. If she can buy these things, then she'll feel secure. And then it's temporary. Then the dopamine hits and it's gone. But if I look at it with a little bit of security within myself already there, I can be grateful, because here are these expenses and here's this money, and it's just like I can view the stream coming in and then going out. So this is it's like, okay, it's coming in and this is also coming and it's taken care of. So this takes care of this, and I'm not so heavily invested. There's not all this energy tied up, entangled with expenses and responsibility. When my nervous system is at ease, well, then my mind is clearer. Then my emotions aren't being taken for a ride. And from that clear headspace, which is why I love providing the service of healing so much, is that when I am secure, when my mind is clear, I make decisions for myself. I take risks, especially like earlier on when I started investing in myself with courses on art and developing my skills. There was fear there. I was still afraid, like the money, or like I took a 6-month course and it cost the most I've ever spent on myself. It was like, I think it was like $2,000 or something like that. And then I got to essentially benefit from that investment. And then another one came along, and this isn't just like I'm not made of money. I don't come from money. This is money that I like saved up for and paid for that 6-month course. It was like in installments. But then I got to benefit from my investment because, one, I sent the signal to myself, to my subconscious, that I'm worth investing in. So that bumped up my self-esteem. And then I got to experience the benefits of being in a community of like-minded people who, in some shape or form or another, are on a similar path as me. So one of my deepest wounds is that I have to do things on my own, that I'm alone in life, that I'm not supported, that I'm not seen, that I'm not worth, hearing out. And I got to be in a community where I looked through all those things and shared them. So my thing of not being seen or heard or valued was kind of dispelled. Because when I, took that step, and when I took that step, it almost gave others permission to be like, oh yeah, like it took some of the fear away of like, okay, he's saying it, so it's safe for me to say it. Like I relate to that, or I see things in a similar way, or I don't relate to that. Like this is my thing. And then other people relate to that. There was still a lot of fear around spending the money because I have it. It's like, it's weird because like holding on to it kind of keeps the fear around versus seeing it come in and then watching it go. It was scary and it was uncomfortable. But then I got to experience the benefits of where it went. Like rent, right? You spend money on rent every month, and we get to benefit from having a safe, stable, secure place to live. So I wanted to share that. I wanted to share like there are different ways to think about money that don't keep us in fear. And I'm wondering, like, how do you relate to money? How do you see money? If money were a person or a creature, an entity, what would it look like? How do you relate to that thing, to that idea in your own mind? Because we're carrying all these things. And if we can't feel light in carrying them, then we're going to be weighed down by them. Nowadays, anytime I spend money or anytime I receive money, in my mind, I express thanks. Say like, thank you, money, thank you, cashier, thank you, farmers, for the groceries, for like a cashier taking her time to be there, for this like idea of money, for being present and supportive in my life. One of my favorite trauma researchers, Maston Kipp, would say that oftentimes our relationship to money mirrors our relationship to our mother. And for me, that was kind of a weird, it was true for me. And it reminded me that even though I may have not the best relationship with one, that doesn't mean that I can't have a good relationship with another. That just because there was, an ineffective mother in my life growing up, that doesn't mean that there weren't other healthy and effective maternal figures. I think one of my favorite spiritual sayings that I found along the way was that there's the people who give you life, and there are parents, and those aren't always the same. I wanted to include at the end of this video an example of the healing services that I provide. So if you don't feel like it, you can check out now. If you've stayed all this way, then I would hope that you stick around for this. Yeah, this is a remote healing for our relationship to money. So we start by taking a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and again, feeling that belly expand, breathing down to our foundation, allowing ourselves to enter a state of calm awareness. And when you're ready, go ahead and close your eyes. Keep breathing. With your eyelids closed, keep your attention behind your eyes as if they were open, looking into the distance. Feel that grounded presence behind your eyes. Breathe. So I'm going to call into your awareness the presence, the energy, the idea, the concept of money. We're setting the intention to heal any wounds we may be carrying, any insecurities, so that in general, we can have, share, and feel ourselves a little more stable, a little more secure, a little more grateful. Setting the intention to let go of that which keeps us from security, from stability, from joy, from play, so that we can create a better world, better experience for ourselves and for others. In all ways, both large and small, for the good of the world and humanity, so be it. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and ask yourself, who are two people outside of myself who would benefit from seeing me a little more stable, a little more secure, and with a little bit more money? hope this helps. I hope you find yourself in a good place. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.